Alright. I'm here with another video exposing and humiliating the Sony fanboy shitheads at Neogaf. Which Neogaf is a Sony owned and corporate sponsored forum full of Sony astroturfers. But today I wanted, and this goes for the whole internet, because the whole internet, video gaming internet, is extremely Sony biased. I'm talking about Twitter, YouTube, Neogaf, all of it. One way you can objectively prove this is you can just look at some sales figures. And a lot of times these Sony exclusives that are so talked about, that dominate the online conversations, that dominate the podcasts, that dominate all the talk on the forums, then they go and they sell terrible. Because real people in the real world don't want them. But these little Sony fanboy shits that dominate the forums and they go around, Xbox sucks. Xbox is always on their minds. You know, that's all they care about is Xbox failing, really. They don't care about Sony succeeding. They don't care about video games. That's why they're a joke. That's why they're a cancer on gaming. The biggest cancer on gaming is Sony fanboys. I mean, they're far and above Nintendo fanboys or anything. You know, they don't care about gaming. That's the fundamental thing about Sony fanboy. A Sony fanboy is not playing Horizon SJW thinking, oh, look at this amazing game. They're thinking, I sure hate Xbox. Look at this game that's exclusive to Sony. Man, I want to play this game to prove those Xbox guys don't have this game. You know, that everybody knows that. You know that. That's the point of it. They wouldn't give a shit about 1/10 of a shit about what's Horizon SJW if it played on the Xbox One too. And don't give me this the other thing they like to do is lord up the power. You know, the PS4 is more powerful than the Xbox One right now. I get it. You know, Scorpio is going to change all that, so their video is Pyrrhic, so to speak. I mean, their victory is Pyrrhic. You know, it's not. They know that their doom is coming. They know Scorpio's already been announced, and it's more powerful than anything Sony has. And if you, but they like to lord this. And if you look at the history, Microsoft's been more powerful than PlayStation most of the years. The Xbox was way more powerful than the PS2. I mean, it blew it away. Xbox had 64 megabytes of RAM. The PS2 had 32 back in the day. That means it had double the RAM. You know, you don't see that kind of difference nowadays. That would be like if the Xbox One had 16 gigabytes of RAM and the PS4 only had 8 or something like that. You know, that's the difference of double the RAM. As well as it had a better GPU than the PS2 by a long shot, better CPU, better everything. It blew away the PS2. That was from 2001 to 2005. Then in 2005, the Xbox 360 came along. It was more powerful than the PS3. The difference was much closer than the Xbox and PS2. And this is not what this video is about, so I'm not gonna. I'll do another video on that subject. But overall, you would have to say the Xbox 360 was more powerful than the PS3. At the very least, even the most vibrant PS3 fanboy would have to admit the Xbox 360 had better multi-platforms in 99% of cases. You know, regardless, the Sony fanboy will say, oh, the Sony exclusives on PS3 blew away anything on Xbox. That's not true. I put Halo 4 graphics on Xbox 360 up with anything on PS3. Uncharted 3, anything. You know, now, it's true that Microsoft developers didn't really push graphics as much as Sony, and that was the problem of the exclusives. But Halo 4 coming out towards the end of the gen, to be fair, but you know, its graphics were as good as Killzone. Its graphics were as good as anything Uncharted on PS3, if not better. So, getting that out of the way to say that Xbox 360 was a smidge more powerful than the PS3. So you had from 2005 to 2013, Xbox also was more powerful. Only since 2013 to 2016, Xbox One versus PS4, did the PlayStation finally get more power. So from 2001 to 2017, that's 16 years, Xbox was more powerful 13 years out of that group. And it's about to get the crown again with Scorpio. So you're talking about the greater majority of 2 decades, the Xbox has been more powerful than the PlayStation. The only blip in that radar has been the last 3 years where the PS4 beat the Xbox One, and I put that all on Don Matrix. Don Matrix came in and fucked up the Xbox. But that's all changed now. Phil Spencer's coming in, and now we're seeing Scorpio. Oh, it's more powerful than the PlayStation again. But let's get all that out of the way, because I tend to go on these stupid tangents. That's not what this video is supposed to be about. I can do other videos about those topics. In this video, we're going to talk about just how biased Neogaf and the entire internet is towards Sony exclusives. And podcasts, that's all they talk about, Sony exclusives all the time. And the real public doesn't give a shit about Sony exclusives. They may to a small extent, but 99% of people are not fucking playing Uncharted. They're not fucking playing Horizon SJW. They're playing fucking, Overwatch on PC or something on their iPhone, or they're playing fucking if they're playing consoles, they're playing some multiplayer. They're probably playing Call of Duty, Battlefield. Those games don't even get 1/1000th the hype of the Sony exclusives, but they sell 50,000 times as much. In particular, I want to call out the media, the podcasters in particular. All they do is talk about Sony exclusive constantly. That's all you hear about on fucking podcasts. Oh, here, let's talk about this new Sony exclusive. Let's talk about this old. Those games are not the games people are playing, and podcasters need to be ashamed. The people like Jeff Cannata of the podcast I listen to, and Christian Spicer, he's a big Sony. They're both big Sony fanboys. Although Cannata is less of one than Spicer, he still is one undeniably. I want to call out podcasts and the gaming media in particular for the incredible Sony bias and lack of giving Microsoft in particular a fair shake. And their arrogant, just refusing to acknowledge a huge portion of the gaming populace that likes Xbox, But forget all that. Let's just try to put it in terms of how biased Neogaf is. First of all, I find this funny. The hilarious thing is that I guess this was originally going to be the topic of this video. Incredibly enough, it shows here on Neogaf, let me find the thread, that Ghost Recon Wildlands, here it is, biggest debut of the year, was the best-selling game in the UK so far this year. Meaning, first week sales, meaning it sold more than Horizon SJW. It says, quote, Tom Clancy Ghost Recon Wildlands, the biggest week one launch of the year so far. So, the aforementioned Horizon blah blah blah. Oh, it mentions that Horizon Zero Dawn was the top selling launch week game of the year so far, a record that lasted only 1 week. Well, I'm not even willing to give Horizon much credit for that, because how many other big games came out? It's freaking March 14th. Horizon was really the first big game of the year to come out. Then came Zelda, and I don't even know if I put Ghost Recon Wildlands as a big game, but yeah, let's say it's a big game. So basically, the point of this video is Ghost Recon Wildlands, and you can be sure it's the same everywhere, especially in the United States, but worldwide. Ghost Recon Wildlands outsold in the UK the 10 billion times more hyped Horizon SJW. How many times more hype did Horizon SJW have than Ghost Recon Wildlands? How much podcast airtime did Ghost Recon Wildlands get? I listened to Jeff Cannata's podcast, DLC. I would say I didn't hear them talk about Ghost Recon Wildlands at all. And they spent, I don't know, 5 hours the last few weeks talking about, Horizon SJW. That's all they talk about, as always, is the latest Sony exclusive. Because it's Sony exclusive. Although they'll never admit that. Of course that's why. That's the one common denominator of every game they talk about it. Oh, it happens to be Sony exclusive, And they'd probably say, well, because Sony exclusives are more exciting. No, bullshit. Then how can I tell you that a year from now you'll still be talking about a Sony exclusive if we don't even know what the games are yet? That's proof that it's Sony exclusive bias. And yeah, so So Horizon SJW is outsold by Ghost Recon's Recon Wildlands in the UK, and I'm sure in the US because their markets are very similar. We just don't get sales for the US like that right away. But I could pretty much bet in the MPD, Ghost Recon Wildlands will beat Horizon SJW. Now you can say, oh yeah, but Ghost Recon is on 2 platforms and Horizon's on. Well, first of all, like I said, let's just look at the height. Let's look at the number of foreign posts and podcast discussion Horizon SJW got. That has nothing to do with have 2 platforms. You know, either way, it got 50,000 times the podcast discussion, 50,000 times the message board discussion, yet it sold less. That's a disgusting indictment of forums and podcasts and their arrogant Sony first mentality, you know? Because they didn't talk about Ghost Recon Wildlands at all. Now let's look at, I wanted to put it in terms. I have this page up with, there's official threads on Neogaf for each game. Horizon SJW official thread. If you look over here, you can see how many posts, how many views it has. It has close to 2 million views. 1,992,904 views on the Horizon SJW official thread. Let's look over here at Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Wildlands. 53,000 views. 53,000 versus 2 million. So Horizon SJW official thread has about 40 times as many views as Ghost Recon Wildlands on Neogaf official thread. 40 times. Now, granted, Horizon SJW has been out for a week or whatever, and Wildlands official thread's probably a week newer, but still, trust me, it is not going to come anywhere close to SJW. You know, maybe Wildlands will eventually get to double the number of views it has now, so 100,000 views, and Horizon SJW has 2 million. It's absurd, the Sony bias on Neogaf. Absurd. You know, let me get that by you again. The game that sold more, Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Wildlands official thread on Neogaf, 53,000 views. Horizon Zero Dawn, 1,992,000 views. 40 times more views on the official thread. 40 times for a game that sold less. It's insane, the Sony Neogaf bias. Insane. You know? And you know, every thread, every post in this Horizon SJW thread, they're thinking about Xbox the whole time. Just like every comment on YouTube, you know, they're thinking, oh, Xbox doesn't have this game. This game is so great. Xbox doesn't have this. You know, they're not thinking, this game is so great. I love video games. I enjoy this game. They're thinking, fuck you, Xbox. You know, that's what they're thinking. That's what's on their mind 24/7. That's why Sony fanboys are a disease, you know? The best example is The Last Guardian. Trillions of posts and hype over a 15-year period. I guarantee, and every one of you knows in your heart this is true, if that same exact game with the same exact graphics was also on Xbox One, it would have received 1/1,000,000th the hype. 1/1,000,000th. Literally. No one would have given a flying fuck about that game if it literally had just played on a different piece of plastic that had Xbox written on the side of it instead of PlayStation written on the side of it. That, to me, was the most damning indictment of Sony fanboys ever created. The Last Guardian and the media, which is complicit in all this. The corporate shills that sit there and hype up these Sony games constantly. And Neogaf. You know, how many... You probably had 1 trillion posts on Neogaf about The Last Guardian over a 15-year period. If the same game had been announced multi-platform on Xbox also 15 years ago, it would have had 10 posts. I mean, okay, maybe 1,000. You know, 1 trillion versus 1,000. That's, I don't even know the math on that. 1 billion to 1. You know, it's insane, the Sony bias on Neogaf and podcasts and the gaming media. insane. Remember, 40-1 the view count on official threads of a game that outsold the other one. Unbelievable.